You may not know this, but Intel was once the most powerful tech company on Earth. Not Apple, not Google, and not Microsoft. Intel. And believe it or not, they controlled the brains of nearly every computer in the world. If you bought a laptop or a desktop, or if you were just using the internet in general, Intel was inside. And yet today, Intel is falling behind companies that didn't even exist when it peaked. Apple walked away from them. AMD passed them. And Nvidia left them in the dust. And here's the part almost nobody realizes. Intel didn't lose because of bad luck. They didn't lose because of competition. They lost because of one mindset and one decision that silently handed away the future of computing. A decision that has now cost them over $100 billion. This is the story of how Intel went from untouchable to trying to catch up. For decades, Intel didn't just compete in tech. They were tech. Their chips powered nearly every personal computer on the planet. Windows and Intel became inseparable. Intel Inside wasn't marketing, it was reality. Companies didn't ask if they'd use Intel. They asked which Intel chip they'd use. And because Intel controlled manufacturing and design, they moved faster than anyone else. New chip, but a smaller size, and much more power. Over and over again, Intel printed money. So much money, in fact, that they began to believe something dangerous. That their company would thrive into the future with technology of the past. The late 2000s, computing began to change. Phones were becoming powerful. Laptops were getting thinner. Efficiency started to matter more than raw speed. But Intel didn't take this shift seriously. Why would they? They dominated desktops. They dominated servers. And they also dominated laptops. Phones looked like toys. They had low power, low margins, and low importance. Meanwhile, another chip design philosophy was quietly spreading. It was called ARM, and they were not about brute force. They were about efficiency, perfect for mobile devices. Intel saw ARM, and they dismissed it. Then came Apple. At first, Apple used Intel chips in Macs. It was a win for both sides. But Apple noticed something Intel didn't. Intel's roadmap was slowing down. They had chip delays, manufacturing issues, and missed targets. Then Apple realized something critical. If they controlled their own chips, they could control their future. So Apple made a move Intel never thought they would. They left. Apple built their own ARM-based chips, and when the M1 launched, it shattered expectations. More power, way less heat, and insane battery life. Intel wasn't just losing a customer, they were losing credibility. This is where Intel's biggest mistake becomes clear. For years, Intel insisted on doing everything themselves. Design, manufacturing, and production. Vertical integration was once their advantage. But as chips became harder to make, that advantage turned into a liability. While Intel struggled with delays, companies like TSMC moved ahead. They had smaller nodes, better yields, and faster innovation. Intel missed critical transitions. 7 nanometers, 5 nanometers, then 3 nanometers. Each delay pushed customers away. Each delay widened the gap. Intel didn't just fall behind. They fell years behind. While Intel stumbled, others accelerated. AMD adopted a flexible model. They outsourced manufacturing, and they moved tremendously fast. And suddenly, AMD chips weren't just competitive. They were better. Then Nvidia took over the future. They had AI, data centers, and machine learning. The most valuable chips in the world weren't CPUs anymore. They were GPUs. And Intel wasn't leading that race. They were watching it. Intel's real failure wasn't technical. It was cultural. They believed scale would protect them. They believed dominance would last. And they believed disruption wouldn't come for them. But technology doesn't care about history. It only cares about momentum. And Intel lost it. By the time they admitted the problem, the industry had already moved on. And what was the cost? Lost market share, lost influence, lost valuation, and over $100 billion in missed opportunity. Intel is trying to recover. They have new leadership, new strategy, and lots of new investments. But the gap is enormous. The lesson here isn't that Intel failed, it's that even giants can sleep through revolutions. Intel didn't lose because they weren't smart. They lost because they thought winning the first time around was enough. And in tech, the moment you believe that, you're already behind.